Welcome to Tearsheet's Deep Dive podcast. I'm host Zack Miller. With me is Sara Toth Stub, joining me to talk about a story she's recently written. Thank you for joining us, Sara.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So this is about the challenge of not only acquiring new customers, but keeping them engaged in fintech apps. This seems to be a pretty wide and recurrent problem, right?
Yeah. So although the various studies say that fintech or financial apps are pretty popular with users, I think there was a recent study that came out from Lean Plume and Liftoff, and that showed that that financial apps were actually in third place as far as how much time people spend on these apps, coming in third place behind social media and weather apps. So
Which
people
looks
are
great.
Yeah, it looks great. People that have the apps are checking them a lot. They are opening them a lot. But at the same time, competition in this sphere has increased a lot, and there are a lot of apps out there. And their data was also showing that user retention sort of drops off. Out of the people that download the app, after just 3 months, it's dropped off to about 3.4% that actually keep the app and use it on a regular basis. And that's a bit lower than apps in general. I think the overall retention rate at 90 days for, all kinds of apps is about 5% or perhaps a little lower. So yeah, that's one thing they're struggling with is maintaining the users and the users that they get.
So, I mean, these companies, this is a huge drop off in the sense that, they spend time, money, and energy trying to acquire these customers. And then after 90 days, only 5% are still engaged. I mean, that's, whoa.
Yeah. And it's a challenge for them. And the costs of acquiring and keeping the customers have also increased in the last couple of years as well. Like they're spending more money on this goal. So, yeah.
So this isn't necessarily a marketing challenge. I mean, this seems to me the way you're describing it to be like a product challenge. How do we get people once they downloaded the app to keep using it?
Right. That's exactly part of it. A lot of apps say, I talked to some of the apps and some analysts, and one thing that kept coming up is one way to keep people using it, and as the apps would say, deliver the best service, is to make those services pretty personalized as far as what sort of information and advice and updates they're giving. They want to make that as personalized as possible so that you feel like the app is, very relevant in your life and something that you don't want to miss out on.
So talk to me about that personalization. How does the app know who you are, I guess? I mean, it has, if you've connected to your bank account, I guess it gets some information about your spending habits, but
right.
What about,
but
what are they doing, I guess, to get you to feed it with your personal information?
So yeah, exactly like you said. So on the one hand, it knows information about you because you connected your bank account, so it can see, where you're spending your money, how much, things like that. And then the investing apps, obviously, if you're using them for investing, they're seeing, where you're putting your money, and they can work with that. But some of these apps also, almost all of them want other information. They want to know, do you have bills that maybe you haven't paid yet that they don't know about? Do you have a loan that they don't know about? Those kinds of things. So they need users to feed it information. So one of the ways that they're doing this is using the activity feed or the news feed for that. So I think this idea of an activity or news feed on apps became sort of notable several years ago when Venmo had the one that it was public, where your friends were spending their money and with whom, and that kind of raised some eyebrows. So while most of these feeds are not public, they're private for you, but they use them as a way to sort of get you to give them more information. For example, an app called Credit Karma, which started out as a way to give free credit scores and reports. They recently launched a feature called Stories, which is like a news feed or activity feed. But what comes up on it are little pieces of advices, such as, now may be a good time to shop for new car insurance. And why do they give that advice to that person at that time? Well, it's because they've figured out that that person's credit score has improved, which is taken into account when you apply for some kinds of insurance. So it might be a good time because your credit score has gone up to redo your insurance to get a better deal. But at the same time, they also need your information. So they use this feed for that too. They'll little questions will pop up asking, have you paid off your credit card balance this month? Or do you have any, big expenses coming up? And then you can simply answer those questions by tapping like yes or no, or entering, a couple of words, just like the way you would spend 2 seconds to comment on someone's post on Facebook or like a post on any sort of social media. So they're making it, very bite-sized, as the one of the directors of product there told me. Instead of sending you an email with a form to fill out about, what did you do this month financially, they're sending out little questions at a time, just integrated with the app that you open it, you see the question, did you pay your bill? You click yes or no, and it doesn't feel overwhelming. But at the same time, that's a way the app is pulling more information out of its users so that it could then put that into its algorithms and deliver the users, more relevant advice for their financial lives.
Interesting. I never thought about it. I always thought that those news feeds were more just, sort of push. I didn't realize they were actually gaining information about me as well. Well,
Yeah,
I
I
guess
think that's something that's increasing. Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but you mentioned the
Sure.
word before, like kind of gaming or gamifying. Is that part of like really finding a way to get users to engage in sort of that push and pull, like that these news feeds sort of engender?
Yeah, I think so. Because it's something that makes it easy, and some people would say that maybe it sometimes gets a bit addictive. There's an app out there called Status Money that actually allows you to compare your spending to those of similar backgrounds and similar incomes. It doesn't actually show, real names or identities. And in that case, yeah, people are divulging information about their spending habits and their financial lives, and then using, they can see what other people are doing, and it kind of makes it like a contest. As the CEO said, that money's inherently competitive. So when you see that someone with the same income and same expenses as you is, saving more or whatever, that may motivate you to do it. And, there's all sorts of things like that this app and others gives out sort of like virtual badges that you can then save up and cash in for money. So yeah.
So do you see in your sort of survey, as you spoke to apps and the people developing them, like that content really plays a role in getting users engaged? Meaning, people are looking for more than just to do a transaction. There's all kinds of like consumption of different types of content going on.
Right. I think we've seen sort of a real convergence of that. Obviously there's a lot of financial news content online, and for years you've been able to personalize that a bit with like Yahoo Finance. You can, get alerts for certain companies or certain stocks that you want to follow. But we saw recently the investing platform Robinhood. They recently announced that they recently launched a new service where they are instead of using Yahoo Finance, you can go through their app to see news linked to your investments and to companies that you're interested in investing in or that you are invested in. And again, you're doing that all through the app rather than going to outside sources, so they know what you're looking at. And it's also a way to get you to spend more time on that app and really, do everything on that app rather than, go to another app or another website to read financial news, for example.
So that aggregation thing is interesting, I guess. And it's interesting that they're bringing in third-party sources. Do you see that as well? Do you see a lot of these apps looking outside themselves and partnering with other companies, I guess, to fill in, sort of the value for their end users?
Yeah, we saw that recently. I think this is an example of what you're talking about. Venmo recently announced some program something new that they're trying with a couple of big brands, including Chipotle, the food restaurant, and PepsiCo. And basically, they are allowing they've developed a platform where these brands can, sometimes can give their loyalty rewards, maybe $1 off or cash back or whatever. They can actually send those to users through Venmo rather than, mailing you a gift certificate in the mail or another method. So again, this is a way that Venmo is expanding the circumstances in which people can use its app, and therefore they're also learning more about the users and their habits.
So, I mean, this is not, I know you didn't write this in your article, but do you see these financial apps, I guess, expanding sort of beyond just being a financial app where I go just to transact, but really sort of becoming sort of maybe like a lifestyle app, I guess?
Right. No, I think it's very fair to say that, because it's not just a place where you go to transfer money or to check a balance. It's a place where you may also go for advice. You may also go to find, bargains and deals at some of your favorite places. Yeah, it's become much more than that. And something that's also interesting is some of these apps that started out as an investment app. I think Stash is an example of this. It started out as sort of a micro investing platform, but now it offers a debit card, and it's effectively, become a banking. It's an app which you can use to spend money, to save money, to transfer money. So it's kind of become like a checking account also. And this is actually, sort of the core of its platform now, as its CMO told me. And it didn't start out that way. It started out as an investment app. So yeah, we're seeing apps, getting into various different areas of your financial life. And at the same time, also bringing in other, not strictly banking or financial aspects, but more, lifestyle or consumer habits.
Sara, as always, a pleasure talking to you.
Okay, thank you. You too.